And good evening and welcome to this edition of the Scanner Guys. I'm Jonathan Higgins, your host for this show, and we're going to be talking about how repeaters work in trunking systems. We're actually going to keep it very basic tonight, so we want you to walk away from this show having a little bit better understanding of how repeaters work and how trunking systems work roughly. So sit back and relax. Hopefully this will be something that'll enlighten you to learn a little bit more about how the radio systems work behind the scenes. Let's get right to it. Into our slide deck we should go. So let's take a look at a couple of slides and we'll dive right into the topic of discussion. Make sure you follow, like, and subscribe to our social media on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram at The Scanner Guys. Check out thescannerguys.com is the official website, thescannerguyshow.com. And you can shop our store right through the website. Train Aficionado Live will be back next week for a great show on Wednesday, July the 3rd. So if you haven't checked out trainaficionado.com, certainly do that. Also, check out our YouTube channel at Train Aficionado for our shows. We've got a lot of events coming up in July, as we can see on the screen here. Some railfan get-togethers, and I'm also doing a presentation for the Cincinnati Railroad Club. I'll be presenting the Carolinas through a railfan's lens this will be a Thursday night, July the 11th, from 7:30 to 9 p.m. My presentation actually starts at 8. The meeting starts at 7:30. This will also be streamed on their YouTube channel, so if you search out Cincinnati Railroad Club on YouTube, you'll be able to watch this presentation live. And of course, if you're not available to watch it live, it'll be on their YouTube channel following the broadcast. If you are in the local area, we suggest you come out to the Cincinnati Union Terminal. It's known as today as the Cincinnati Museum Center. We'll be doing this presentation inside the historic Newsreel Theater. Once again, that'll be July the 11th, a Thursday night. Should be a great time. And we keep in the theme of nighttime stuff. So on the Saturday just after the meeting, we'll be doing some rail fanning at night at the Ludlow Rail Fanning Tower. So I'll be there from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. Ludlow, Kentucky. We'll be hanging out there, watching some trains and relaxing trackside in their tower there, as you can see in the small photo to the right. And then we'll round out the month with some ice cream and rail fanning with the Sugar Shack by the Tracks. It'll be a rail fan meetup at the Sugar Shack by the Tracks in Laughlin, Ohio, and I'll be there from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. You'll be able to hang out, have some ice cream, and watch some trains. So lots of great things coming up in July. We'll be adding more dates as they come up. These events are all in July, so hopefully you'll come out to one of those. Or if you're not from the local area, at least be able to see my presentation, The Carolinas Through a Railfan's Lens, at the Cincinnati Railroad Club meeting, which will be great. I'm looking forward to doing that. And that broadcast will begin on YouTube at 8 p.m. The post is already on their YouTube channel, so you'll be able to see it there. So tonight's presentation, we are talking about how does it work. Repeaters and trunking systems. So they are very complex. So tonight we're going to talk about this in detail on how they all work. So this should be really good. The only thing that I'm missing right now, hold on one second, is I'm not able to see anybody's chat messages right now. So let me just take a look, see if I can pop those in. There we go. Okay, I could see them now. Before I couldn't see them, so I wanted to get into it before I'm not able to see those comments as they're live. So let's go into our first slide here. So how does it work? So radio repeaters, simplex versus repeaters. All right, so let's talk about simplex first. Now, many of you probably were in the hobby for a very long time, and you remember the old low band. The Mass State Police had low band. Several other states, typically for the Highway Patrol, had low band. So simplex communication. Simplex equals simple and single. Now, it doesn't need to go on a dating app to be able to find a significant other. It's actually single for a reason, meaning a single frequency operation. So that means it's very simple. Single and simple. So the radios talk to one another without a repeater present. So example, we've got in the photograph here, an input-output frequency is the same, which is 42.5 megahertz. So that means when the dispatcher is transmitting off the tower, and then the police car that's communicating will communicate directly to the tower, and then sometimes if the other police car is within range of it, they'll be able to hear each other. But many times with these state systems, when they were on low band, the only way they could hear each other was when they were in close proximity. So it's very much a line of sight. With the tower being high up, typically it's got an antenna nice and high up, so it's able to receive those signals throughout the area. And then, the cars would basically communicate with one another if they've been in close proximity. A lot of times you should be able to hear on the radio system, the dispatcher playing relay for another unit that's out in the field to relay a message to another unit. Oftentimes, simplex means talk around. There's no repeater. Maybe it's just car-to-car communication, and it's usually within the radio's range. So if it's a portable radio, maybe you get a couple of miles. If it's a base mobile, maybe you get a little bit more than that. The railroads basically operate in a similar fashion with a simplex type of thing. They have transmit sites and receive sites. It's typically one frequency input and output, and you have to be within close proximity to be able to hear it. So for us, when we were monitoring simplex communications on a scanner, we would typically hear the dispatcher all the time, and then we would hear the units out in the field if we were in a close proximity of the unit that was transmitting. So a lot of times when I was listening to the scanner growing up with the Mass State Police being on low band, I'd hear the dispatcher a lot, and then sometimes I would hear the car out in the field, and I knew right away that they were somewhere near the house. If I couldn't hear them at all, of course, they were well out of range. So that's kind of the meaning of simplex. Simplex is basically simple and single. So, one frequency, line of sight, whether it be car-to-car or tower-to-car, no repeater whatsoever. We're going to talk about a repeater next. So repeater gets a little bit more interesting. There's an input and an output channel. As you can see from our diagram here, we've got several different things on screen. So of course, the two-way radio has an input and an output channel. So that basically means that the police car in this example, the officer in there, is when they key the mic, they're on the transmit frequency. So transmit, so that would be the input, which is 465.4750. So that means they're transmitting up to the repeater. And then what we program into the scanner is the receive frequency, which is 460.4750. So that's what we're typically programming in the scanner. So what ends up happening, the magic of the repeater, so the input frequency hits the repeater, and the repeater basically repeats that audio transmission within seconds on the output frequency. So it's taking that audio, repeating it out, and what that does is the output makes it so everybody that's within range of the tower is able to hear your radio transmission. So everybody within range is able to hear it, versus with the old simplex, the only way you would hear that other unit is you would have to be in close proximity of that unit. So, of course, we have one of those fancy Motorola radios there. Same thing. Whether it be a base mobile or a portable, it's going to work in the same fashion, have an input and output. And then, of course, those scanners that we have, of course, the very popular SDS 100 and our 536 HP, which is our base unit, you're going to be programming in the output frequency or the transmit frequency. So transmit is TX, not the transmit, the receive, which is RX. You're going to be programming that, and the transmit frequency is the input frequency. Sorry, I got a little tongue-tied there. So the great benefits of a repeater communication is, you're able to hear all the listeners around town. And you're also able to hear that on the scanner because the repeater is doing its job. And essentially, that's why it's called a repeater, because it's repeating the radio transmission on another frequency. So let me just make sure I'm clear. So the transmit frequency is the input to the repeater, which is that 465 megahertz. The receive frequency that you receive the communication on is on the frequency which is 460 megahertz. And that's the channel that we program into the scanner. Here on radio reference, typically you're only showing the receive frequency, or the frequency that's outputting from the repeater. So we can see in the column here for Ashland, we can see the frequencies there, and then we can actually see the input to the repeater, which is the next column over, which is the 486 and the 487 megahertz channel. So we can see there that the police and fire department are using a repeater because it shows RM, which means it's a repeater. And then the highway department there, or Public Works, is actually using a simplex system where it's a base mobile. That's what the type stands for, base mobile. So that is not using a repeater. So that'll be very much like our first example for simplex. So you'll be able to hear typically the dispatcher all the time. And if you're within line of sight range for that DPW truck, you'll be able to hear their communication. So that's how it looks like on radio reference. Typically, the input frequency is hidden on radio reference. I enabled it on the Middlesex County, Massachusetts page by enabling the input frequency. As you can see in the other box there, it shows input frequency hidden. I made it so I could see it. Now, another question that you may ask, what happens if I program in the input frequency into the repeater? So you're going to be able to hear the radio transmission on there if you're within range of the unit that's communicating on it. That's on that input frequency. It's probably going to sound a little staticky, and you're probably not going to sound so good unless you're in close proximity of them. But that's kind of, the going up to the repeater. The repeater will kick it out again at, whatever the wattage is of the radio. But that's pretty much how it works with a repeaterized system. There's an input and then an output frequency, and typically on radio reference you're going to see the output frequency or the receive channel on there. Repeaters versus trunking. All right, buckle up, everybody. This is going to get a little bit more interesting. Now, I'm keeping this basic. Now, this doesn't apply to every single trunking system that's out there. We're just giving you the basics of how it all works in general. So let's look at why trunking is such a great thing for some agencies. So with a trunking system, it consolidates things. It makes it so resources are not being wasted. So we're looking at Mayberry here with two-way radio communication plan for conventional channel system. So this means maybe it's a repeater system here. So we've got, for the town of Mayberry, they got the police department, they got the fire department, they got the highway department, they got the school buses, and they've got the electric company. All these repeaters, so they have a total of 5 repeaters in Mayberry, 5 of them. Now these cost thousands of dollars to have these repeaters, and they're very expensive. You're going to notice here that I put in radio traffic gauges. So I put in, basically green all the way to red, indicating how much traffic that's on each one of these channels. So remember, 5 individual repeaters. So what we have here is the police departments in that orange to red gauge. So their traffic is quite busy on this one channel. For the fire department, it is, almost in the red, but in the orange. Highway department, it's in the green, but it can get a bit busier at times. The school buses, not as busy. Think about it during the summer. That channel is going to be relatively quiet. The only time that's going to be busy is, of course, when school's in session, but it probably won't have any activity on the weekend. And the electric company. Typically, they're going to be using their channel a lot during storms, but it's not going to be busy all the time. So we can see here that these 5 repeaters individually are not being fully used to their potential. So for instance, the police department, they're using it a lot. Fire department's using it quite a bit. And then it kind of trickles down through the highway department, the school buses, and the electric company. So it continues to lessen. So these repeaters are, a lot of money, and some of them are not getting used as much as they could. So Mayberry could think about, there could be a better way of doing this. And this is where trunking comes into play. Now let's take a look. So let's take a look at Mayberry if they got a trunking system. So the great thing about it is those 5 channels now are shared amongst the whole entire town. Actually, 6 channels, I should say. Because there's a control channel, which is the brains of the system. And that's also known as the controller channel. And then we have 5 voice channels. So you see them there, all 5. So what ends up happening is Mayberry Police and Mayberry Fire transmitting at the same time. The traffic cop, or AKA the computer or the controller, decides where that conversation will go. So it'll typically jockey these around to the channels as necessary. So, it doesn't mean that every single fire call is going to be on voice channel 1 or every single police call is going to be on voice channel 2. It's going to basically dictate how it goes, depending on what's going on or who's transmitting this at the time. So with this opens up some more opportunities. Now remember, if we go back to this slide here, police department probably could use a different channel. Maybe they have a dispatch channel and then they have a secondary channel for running plates or whatever it may be. So with a trunk system, you have the ability of assigning a police department 2 talk groups, which would be helpful. Kind of split the communication so it's not so busy on one channel. Same thing with the fire department. Maybe we'll have a fire dispatch and maybe a couple of fire grounds. With a trunk system, it allows for this. Because if you think of at the nighttime, these other agencies, I know I keep going back and forth, highway department, school buses, and the electric company are not going to be busy. So you can see here, whoops, I went too far that way. So you can see here that, let's say, those other departments are quiet. We have voice channels 3, 4, and 5 available to carry conversations. So that basically means that Mayberry Police and Mayberry Fire could definitely use an additional channel, aka talk group. So that's one of the major benefits. The other thing, too, is the 6 channels that we have here, the 5 voice channels, are not just tied to the fire department, or not just tied to the police department, or the school buses, or the electric company, or the highway patrol. These channels can be used by any of these agencies. So it's basically using the channels better versus, having, oops, I'm going the wrong way, having 5 repeaters for each agency, and, vast majority of the time, electric company's quiet. School buses are quiet, especially during the summer. The highway department, maybe it's a little busier during the day, but at night, it's not getting nearly as much traffic. So this is basically putting your dollars and your resources to better use with a trunk system. Hopefully that all makes sense. So let's review here. So we've got a control channel, which is the brains of the system. That plays traffic cop. So it basically communicates to that channel and decides, okay, where's this conversation going to go? So the police department communicates it's going to go to channel 2 here. And the fire department talks, it's going to go to channel 1. And then as, people start transmitting, it'll keep jockeying down the various channels. Pretty simple, right? All right, so this is typically what a phase 1 digital trunk system looks like. Each voice channel can only carry 1 conversation at a time. 1, that's it. It's not able to carry multiple conversations. So let's say Mayberry starts to grow and the police and fire department require more talk groups. So what do we do then? Well, of course, we can license more frequencies so we can then have more voice channels. But there's something else we can do. Let's take a look. So this is where phase 2 trunking comes into play. So let's take a look at the railroad tracks here. Of course, I'm a rail fan, many of you know. I host a show called Train Aficionado. That's not why there's railroad tracks on this show tonight. This is an example of phase 1 versus phase 2. So phase 1, each channel can handle 1 voice conversation. In this case, 1 train. With phase 2 digital trunking, it can handle 2 voice communications on each channel. So we've got 2 tracks there, so it can handle 2 trains. So let's take a look at what this looks like on the slide. So yet again, we've switched Mayberry to a phase 2 digital trunk system. Yes, that's right. When the winter months come, the highway department will be very busy. Definitely, you're right there, Paul. So with phase 2 digital trunking, look at what we've got going on here. Each channel supports 2 voice paths. So let's do the math. So before, we had 5 voice channels, so that means it could carry 5 different conversations at the same time. If each voice channel can carry 2 voice paths, We have now doubled what our existing trunk system is able to handle, and now it can handle up to 10 conversations at the same time without having to license any more additional frequencies. So that's why a lot of trunk systems out there are now phase 2 digital, because they didn't have to license additional frequencies. It's able to handle, each channel on the system is able to handle 2 voice paths versus 1. Hopefully that all makes some sense there. So basically we remain the same with the trunk system. We just changed the system, so went from 1 voice path to 2 voice paths. Now for DMR and NXDN, it works slightly different. I'm just using the easiest example to kind of explain how trunking works. So keep in mind, DMR, NXDN trunking works slightly different. Same thing with Pro Voice, but I'm just trying to keep this simple. So tonight's show, we're just trying to give you a basic understanding of what a repeater looks like and what a trunking system looks like. So we use an example of a phase 1 and phase 2 system. That is the basics of what we're talking about tonight. How does a repeater work and how does a trunking system work? Hopefully that enlightened some of you on this discussion tonight. I'll be able to answer any questions that you may have. I see a lot of people checking in tonight. So let me just take a look at a few of the text messages that are here. Let's Go Rail Fanning, Chris Schultz, Starman, Scott, Michael, Richard, Les, Paul, David, and Michael. Welcome to the broadcast. I know there's a lot of you out there. Hello to all of you that are watching. But yeah, we're trying to just give you kind of a simple show to kind of tell you how these systems work. Back in the day, these repeater sites used to cost $10,000. I'm sure they cost a lot more now. So it's very expensive. So you think of the Mayberry analog conventional system, you figure those five channels, let's say it's back in the day, it was $10,000 per site. You got $50,000 per repeater, like for all those repeaters. So it's crazy the amount of money invested. That's where a trunking system, you can get your maximum capability by having 6 frequencies licensed, 5 frequencies licensed, and then being able to get the most potential out of those frequencies. So that's why a lot of times for agencies, repeaters are more cost effective and more, well, not really cost effective. I would say it's more user effective because you're able to get the most potential out of that system without having a dedicated channel to the bus company for the school buses. Because most of the time, during the summer, there's not going to be a lot of activity, and then there's not going to be a ton of activity on the weekends. Let's see here. Let's Go Rail Fanning mentioning a show idea for the Public Works. Typically, we will do that towards the winter months, kind of talk about, them when we're talking about our storm-related stuff with snow plows and all that. The airband, definitely that's something that we're looking into, kind of scanning the airband. We've done shows like that in the past. Steve, hopefully we'll be able to do something that in the future. There's definitely, viewing area by the Cincinnati airport that's actually in Kentucky. Believe it or not, the Cincinnati airport's in Kentucky. I would like to be able to do something where I can go out there and do a video where you're hearing the scanner audio and you're hearing and seeing the planes as well. That'd be something I got to see if I can try to do and then kind of build that into a show. But that should be something that could be fun. So definitely keep that in mind. Also, many trunk systems are going with simulcast to reduce on the cost of the system as well. Yes, it's another thing. Simulcast is a complete, a whole other topic of discussion. I wanted to keep this show super basic because a lot of times, our audience, some of them are entry level for scanners, some of them are experts. So it all varies, with the level of expertise for people watching the show. So I try not to make it super complicated where I'm going over the people's heads that are just entering in this hobby. And then, of course, I don't want to alienate them. And I, of course, want to get a little bit more technical for those people that are that have a good understanding and background of the hobby as well. So it's kind of, doing that balance. So yeah, we've got some great stuff coming up for Train Aficionado. As I mentioned, I'll give you those dates one more time. I'm very excited to be able to do this rail fanning tour that I've been doing. So if you're within the Cincinnati, Ohio area, definitely come out and hang out with me. I'll talk to you about trains and scanners and all that business as well. So um, I really enjoy, being out there, rail fanning with many of you. So it's a great way to be able to meet some of the audience. And of course, um, I'm part of the Cincinnati Railroad Club, which is a really nice club to belong to. And I'm excited to do a presentation for them. This will be probably either my third or fourth presentation I've done for them. So I'm really excited. And I'm doing a slideshow presentation of rail fanning in North Carolina, particularly on the Norfolk Southern, I almost said Cincinnati, their Charlotte division there. So it should be good. Any other questions? I see a bunch more check-ins. I see that Fred is from Arkansas. Welcome to the show. Also, Michael is from Tennessee. Love seeing all the check-ins from all over the place. Really nice. But yeah, I'm excited to be able to see that. What is this? Les, he's mentioning that he's got the new SDS 100 with the NXDN and DMR. He's very excited. He's got that. So that'll be great for anything that you're monitoring up in Canada that's using NXDN or DMR. Now, the big thing that I get questions about, a lot of the Uniden radios with the paid upgrades. So, if all these upgrades came in the radio's cost would go up extremely high. So with the NXDN, DMR, and Pro Voice, what I recommend is you buy what you need. So if you're looking to monitor an NXDN system or a DMR system or a Pro Voice system, when you purchase this radio, you can do it online through Uniden's website. You can purchase the upgrade and go from there. And it's relatively easy to do it through the manufacturer's website. If not, you can do it when you purchase the radio through a company like ScannerMaster. They will do the firmware update, and they'll also put in the key for NXDN, DMR, Pro Voice, whatever you've purchased through them, and then it'll allow you to be able to do what you need to get done. SGV scanner is located in Southern California. Lincoln is in Cape Coral, Florida. Jason states he finally ordered a battery for his SDS. That's great news. Greetings from Glenn in Australia. Welcome to the program. But yeah, with any of those radios, I recommend doing that. So typically, Uniden has to pay for a license to be able to use any of those digital formats. So if it's not in use, Uniden doesn't have to pay for it on the particular radios. So when you do NXDN, DMR, Pro Voice, that's all registered through their website. So, of course, DMR, Pro Voice, or NXDN going to get their cut of the money there, because now this is a radio now using that side of the digital. But for the most part, most users, the P25 suffices. It's going to be a good option unless you're monitoring a particular system that's involving any one of those formats. So, but yeah, certainly really cool. But yeah, I'm excited to be able to do additional shows this summer. I know I was talking to Dale. He's actually listening as he's driving home. And he's wanting to come back on the show to be able to do something. So that'll be kind of cool to be able to have Dale back in to be able to do a show with me, which is always a great time to have Dale on. Let me go through a couple of slides, and we'll wrap up the show for this evening. Richard A. Researching my area before buying an STS 200. I don't need the fancy add-ons. Richard, if you don't need the DMR, no Pro Voice or NXDN, then you're just looking at the price tag of the scanner. The waterfall feature, I finally have the keys for that. I have to play with that, and then we're going to put together a show on the waterfall keys. Waterfall function, not the waterfall keys, but the waterfall function on the STSs, which would be really cool. So the waterfall feature, for the most part, how it works is it's looking at a frequency band, maybe 160 all the way up to 162 megahertz, and it's looking for activity along the band. Of course, you'll have big spikes, where some of the activity is. So it's great to be able to kind of see what's going on a frequency band. So what we'll do is when I do a show with that, I'll probably end up recording my screen, and then kind of describing what's going on to you guys. Hector mentions, a good option, especially if you're traveling a lot. This is a good thing that I would recommend. So if you've got a scanner in your vehicle and you do a lot of traveling, whether it be throughout a state or throughout a region or throughout the whole entire country, you may want to purchase the NXDN, the DMR, and maybe the Pro Voice. Just because, where you're traveling to could be using DMR or NXDN, and that could be handy, For instance, I'm a rail fan. I love listening to trains and transit communications. So I do have in my radio the ability to hear Pro Voice, which currently right now the MBTA subway and bus ops uses Pro Voice. So if I go out to Boston, I'll be able to hear their communication through their Pro Voice system. So, and that's one of the reasons for me monitoring Pro Voice. NXDN and DMR, a lot of my part of the country, it's on businesses. But, in certain parts of the country, there's some police departments using DMR. There's certain departments using NXDN, police and fire. So it all depends on where you're at. Like Scott's mentioning, still sections of New York still using Pro Voice. Reading, PA, here, the handle is nobody. Literally, it says nobody. I appreciate all your information on the SDSs and scanners in general. And welcome to the broadcast. Yeah, I see that you're rarely here, but welcome. She's just checking in. Thank you so much for, checking in there. I forget that I actually can show see, nobody. That's it shows the handle is nobody. So right there, I just can show it right on the screen. I forget that I can do that within our system, being able to show, the comments. And here's Fred's comment. He mentioned about, the waterfall feature. So that's going to be an upcoming show. I just need to put it together and get familiar with it. And then once I put that together and get familiar with it, we'll make a show out of that. So that'll be really good. Just see if there's any other comments here that we can share. Lincoln's digging the new graphics. Yeah, we're trying to do a little bit more with the graphics here. So it's every so often it'll come in there, the scanner guys live or the scanner guys. So it's not all the time on the screen, but it's some of the time. What I'll do is I'll do a couple of slides. Any other additional questions, certainly post those in the comments right now. So I believe you're mentioning the waterfall. I believe you decide the spread of the spectrum, I think. I haven't used the waterfall feature that United's released, but I believe you decide what it is. What is this? What scanner decodes the spread of the spectrum? I'm not too sure what you're meaning by that. I'm not entirely sure on that. I'm sorry. Michael's mentioning his fire department in his town is using NXDN and then DMR for the EMS. So that means that in Michael's case, he's going to need to have a radio that has NXDN and DMR. So if he doesn't have that, he's not able to hear his fire department, and he's not able to hear the EMS. So that's in one of those cases where he needs those upgrades. Suffolk, Long Island just started switching over to P25 Phase 2 and can no longer hear or listen to the EMS trunked or the hospital to ambulance. And the PD is next. Now, I'm not too sure. I haven't been following this system. It could be the encryption or, just your radio's capability. I believe if I remember, the Pro 651, isn't that just a Phase 1 digital trunking scanner, if I remember correctly? I don't remember I don't know all the Radio Shacks off the top of my head. If they do go to Phase 2, and it's, you may be able to still monitor it. You just need a newer scanner as long as they're not using encryption. Remove that. All right, I'll do a couple of slides and then we'll return back to your comments in the chat, or we'll wrap up the show. So let me just do a couple of slides before we round it out. Okay, so the scanner is not P25 Phase 2. Okay, that makes sense. So I don't remember all of this off the top of my head. A lot of times, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing the sales portion of this on a daily basis, so I don't remember all the makes and models of the scanners. So we want to thank you for watching the shows each and every week, whether it's the Scanner Guys or Train Aficionado. These shows, of course, brought to you by viewers like you. When you support either one of the shows by shopping the merch stores, either for the Scanner Guys or the Train Aficionado show, you can visit the merch store for the Scanner Guys. The website is thescannerguyshow.com. We've got all types of things there: hats, t-shirts, stickers, hoodies, travel mugs, you name it, it's all right there. And also, we have on each one of these videos for the Scanner Guys, there's an affiliate link to Scanner Master. So anytime that you need any scanners, accessories, use the affiliate link and purchase it through their website. We do get a small percentage of the sale, so we greatly appreciate that. And of course, these shows, we don't have any sponsors. Scanner Master's not a sponsor. I don't have anybody that sponsors these shows. It's pretty much me. I'm able to get a little bit of revenue from the ads that you watch, and of course, by the merch that you purchase through the website. So any and little bit helps, and of course, using the affiliate link. So make sure you follow, like, and subscribe to our social media as well. Stay up to date. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, or Instagram. Twitter, otherwise known as X, at the Scanner Guys. And as I mentioned, the scannerguyshow.com. You can, of course, shop the store there. Train Aficionado Live will be just before 4th of July on Wednesday, July the 3rd, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific. Haven't decided a topic for the show. I haven't fully decided if I was going to take the night off or not, but as of right now, I'm going to do a show on Train Aficionado for July the 3rd, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific, live on the Train Aficionado YouTube channel. Make sure you hit the subscribe button over there as well if you're interested in trains and the various topics we cover. Definitely do that as well after this broadcast. We'd love to see that climb up. That's the number of subscribers over there as well. One of the great shows that we did not too long ago on the channel is we talked about setting up your scanner for the railroads. And we highlighted the two new radios, the Uniden Bearcat BCD 160DN and BCD 260DN. These are the brand new radios from Uniden. And we talked about how to set these up for the railroads. So I kind of gave you the lay of the land, how to break up things into certain banks, and why do it in this fashion. So hopefully you can get more out of it. So make sure you tune in to Train Aficionado. So speaking of Train Aficionado, I got a lot of events. If you've joined the broadcast late in the running here, I'm doing a presentation for the Cincinnati Railroad Club on July the 11th, which is a Thursday night. The presentation will start at 8 o'clock and run until 9. The meeting itself starts at 7:30, brief break before 8, and then we go right into my presentation. So I'll be presenting the Carolinas through a railfan's lens. There in person at Cincinnati Union Terminal in Cincinnati, Ohio, in the Newsreel Theater. This is free and open to the general public, so come on by if you're from the local area. If you're not, you can watch it live on their YouTube channel, Cincinnati Railroad Club at YouTube. Take a look at their channel, subscribe, and then, of course, watch the broadcast on Thursday, July the 11th. And then we'll have a couple of railfan meetups on July the 13th, which is a Saturday. It'll be summer nights at the Ludlow Railfanning Tower. And I'll be there from 6 p.m. to 10. That's a Saturday night. And that's in Ludlow, Kentucky. And then Wednesday, July the 31st, it'll be another railfanning summer nights at the Sugar Shack by the tracks. And this is an ice cream place right here in the Ohio area in Laughlin. So you can get some ice cream, watch some trains. It's right there by the tracks from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. So some great events coming up with Train Aficionado. So definitely, if you're from the local area, check it out. You'll be able to meet me trackside there at those two locations. And of course, I'll be doing my presentation for the Cincinnati Railroad Club. And of course, everybody can enjoy that because it'll be streamed on YouTube as well. So that was tonight's discussion. We were talking about how does repeater work and trunking system. So we kept it pretty basic. So hopefully you guys got some basic understanding on how this all works in the background. I can tell you that, for radios being programmed, just like it is on the scanner side, for a trunk system to be programmed, it can be quite complicated for the two-way radio maintainer to be able to maintain and program trunking radios as well. So as it's complicated on the scanner side, it's also complicated on that side as well. So I see Scott, asking a question. Jason answered that. Edgar from Canada, thank you so much for watching the broadcast tonight. Greatly appreciated. And then Chris Schultz confirmed that radio is only phase 1. It doesn't do phase 2. So all good things there. I think that's going to wrap it up for me this evening. I thank you so much for joining the broadcasts each and every week, whether it's at the Train Aficionado or Scanner Guys show. Have a great night, and we'll see you just before the 4th of July next week for Train Aficionado Live, and then, of course, the Scanner Guys after that. So be safe out there, and we'll talk to you again next week on Train Aficionado Live. Have a great night. Bye-bye.